the impact of those shocks globally on our domestic market is a direct price transmission. It affects us directly. So of course you will see a hike in the prices. So there are a series of things that are affected. People just can't say it's just only because of the of just the flood. Okay. And let me say on the issue of the flood, in many of the areas, farmers actually had harvested their crops. For maize, for example, they lost some of their second maize crop. So it's a whole set of issues, not just the flood.
Not just the flood. Okay, can you please tell us what Growth Enhancement Support Platform is, GES? What is that?
What happened is that Growth Enhancement Support is a platform where we are subsidizing our farmers and making sure that they are getting the inputs directly and not through government. At the start of this administration, Mr. President directed that we must clean up the corruption in the fertilizer sector. The fertilizer sector was enormously corrupt in this country. The government was buying fertilizers and government was distributing fertilizers. And no more than 10–11% of the fertilizers ever get to farmers. So who gets them? The rich, the famous, the political farmers. The fertilizer develops hands and legs and walks away from farmers' fields and goes into neighboring countries. So essentially, it was a rent-seeking sector. And it wasn't helping the private sector because it was displacing the private sector. And massive amount of money was being lost. And so we found that as expenditure on fertilizer kept going up, rural poverty continued to go up, so which meant the farmers were not getting this input. So the Growth Enhancement Support, we designed it for farmers to get improved seed and fertilizers via their mobile phones. Now, in this country, we have 100 million mobile phones, probably the largest in Africa anyway. So the idea is the farmers get registered, they have an identification number, the input retailers get registered, they have identification numbers, and then the government sends subsidized money, if you wish, into your mobile phone to the farmer that is registered. And the farmer will use that phone to pay for 50%, the money on the phone to pay for 50% of the cost. It's almost like they get a voucher inside of their phone. That's basically what the Growth Enhancement Support is. We are trying to raise the living standard of our poor people by making sure that what belongs to them gets to them and not get sidetracked. So far we have done it, as I said, for the last 140 days. We developed the platform, the electronic platform, the redemption centers with the state governments, and also we got the seed and fertilizer companies to sell seeds and fertilizers directly to farmers, not to government. Because the history in this country has always been one where you got to know a minister of agriculture, they give you contracts and all that. People were supplying sand instead of fertilizer. They were supplying grain instead of seed. All that's gone. We cleaned up a corruption of 40 years in that sector just because we brought in that innovation. As I mentioned to you, we are 1.2 million farmers that have received their input, seed and fertilizer through that system. We are very clear in this administration. We will not abandon farmers. What belongs to them must get to them. And politicians can't stand between their seed and fertilizers. It belongs to farmers and you got to get to them directly. And that's what we are doing. We are quite pleased with that.
How successful is the GES in light of the level of illiteracy of Nigerians and especially, I would imagine, farmers?
Yeah, the thing is that when we started, people say, well, it's not going to work. I remember people say farmers, they don't know how to use phone, but that's not correct either. Because, when people have to ask for money from all those of us that are in the urban areas, they use mobile phones. They call you. They can get money from you for that. And so we got the information to them in local languages. So it's in local languages on your phone. So if it's Igbo, whether it's Hausa, whether it's Yoruba, the system is actually calibrated based on local language. And second is that, don't forget, you may be a farmer, and even if you cannot read or write or do any of the things that I've just said, they have children. Their children do help them to be able to use the system to get what belongs to them. I am particularly happy, that you get poor farmers that are getting their inputs, 1.2 million of them. Somebody walked into my office from Sokoto State. It's one of the largest suppliers of fertilizers in Sokoto. He said, Honorable Minister, at the start of this, your policy, I was one of your most strident critics. I said it wasn't going to work because this is not what we've done before. What are we going to do? We always supply fertilizers to government. He said, today I sell 3 lorry loads of fertilizers every day to farmers, each one of them getting 2 bags of fertilizers. And of course, the improved seed goes with that. You look at small farmers. It was a farmer in Nasarawa State here where we started with my colleague Minister Akinwunmi here when we actually flagged this off. She said, look, I've never gotten more than 2 bowls of fertilizer. A mudu. In fact, we had that also from a lady in Niger State. Today, I got 2 bags of fertilizer for the first time. That is exactly what this is supposed to do. Target the poor, make sure they get it, cut out the middleman, and make sure we run a transparent system that's very accountable.
Okay, very quickly, the system that you said you're running on the phone, is it automated system, or do you have somebody at the end of the line when they call?
Yeah, the way it works, it's actually you go to a redemption center, and in that redemption center, the seed suppliers and the fertilizer suppliers are there. And the seed suppliers and fertilizer suppliers are also on that IT platform. So when a farmer gets there, the farmer will have gotten an alert saying, Kayode, you're a farmer, and you're getting 5,600 naira for you to get seed and fertilizers, and it's coded for you. So when you get there, you will simply send that information to the agro dealer that's right there at the redemption center. They all have identifier numbers. When that information is immediately transacted, with the agro dealer, it means that Kayode, you are the person that is actually sending this, and you are known in the system. Now, what you then do is you pay the balance. Government pays 50% for you. You pay the actual balance of 50%, and then you get your seed and you get your fertilizers and you go away. So that is how it works. In some areas where we have challenges with networks, we moved into paper vouchers. Again, it's the same system, except this time it's paper. So we try and use both of those. Now, going forward for next year, we are going to ramp this up very quickly. Remember, we've only done it 140 days. We've hit 1.2 million farmers. Other African countries are actually praising Nigeria. President Kikwete of Tanzania spoke to me when I was in Arusha just about a month and a half ago, that he wants this program in his country, and several other countries want it because it's very transparent. It empowers the poor. And so for us as a country, we want to distribute 10 million mobile phones next year. The Minister of Communication Technology is working very hard with me on this, with the Minister of Finance. Mr. President, I said we should go ahead and do that so we can reach a lot more farmers and deepen the penetration using mobile phone. Now, remember, mobile phone will help us to do many things. First, look at the flood that we are talking about today. Just getting alerts. It's going to rain, or you're going to have a drought. Today is flood. Tomorrow it might be a drought. Information on extension, market price information, health information, nutritional information. All these things we can do by mobile phone. So what we are doing, even financial inclusion, Sanusi Lamido, Governor of Central Bank, is working very hard for financial inclusion policy, where are we going to use this mobile phone to help CBN to also advance the financial inclusion policy in rural areas.
Very good. It's good you mentioned what you're projecting for next financial year, and that brings us to the issue of the budget. First, I'd like to know, and I'm sure a lot of Nigerians would like to know, the vouchers that you're talking about. How much money is government spending on this? Could you give us a ballpark figure for that one? And then also, in terms of what some analysts have said, that agriculture is not getting massive amount of money from this 2013 budget. So we're then looking at, you're going to be buying 10 million mobile phones to distribute, and there is expected to be a number of other expenses that is budgeted for. What kind of money are we talking about here?